All right, welcome to this evening's meeting of the Finance Committee. We have a few things to do. Do we have any minutes?
No, I don't.
Okay. We really want to wrap up the budget work tonight. We have to formally approve the town budgets and the school budgets, anything we haven't already approved. And do a little bit of brainstorming as to what might be included in our annual message that goes into the budget book. And that's about it. After the last meeting, I had another meeting with Chris and talked about some of the things that we had questions about here, so I have some answers for those, or questions about some of the warrant articles, different meetings.
Didn't Jay sent some answers too, didn't he? Did you see he sent some emails? He was watching our meeting and.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I went through, I don't know if anybody had a chance to go through the material the latest material that Chris sent. I had a chance to go through it and I put together, which I emailed to you, this sort of summary of what we need to look at.
I brought it.
And I've got some notes as to where things have changed. Not very much has changed from the last versions that we saw. And some of it's technical, so there's not really anything really big there to talk about. Let me first go over some of the warrant articles, because I've got notes on the meeting with Chris. And there are some interesting things. The first one of which was we had questions about the mini pumper and the pumper. And is one article replacing the other article, or is the other article going to be withdrawn? Well, it turns out the mini pumper has been purchased, and the pumper is an additional fire truck.
Okay.
It's to replace the main fire truck. So,
When you say additional, it's additional to the pumper, but it's not,
yeah,
they're still replacing another truck.
they're replacing the other truck. The big one that is being purchased with this warrant article is going to be the one that responds to major fires or respond to mutual aid and so on.
So as I recall, we used to be the hose-oriented kind of thing, and now we're going towards the tank-oriented kind of a firefighting thing. So this is replacing the other tanker truck? The existing tanker truck?
What's the big one that we have? It's whatever the big one that we have is, I think. Or it's called, I thought it was called the...
We went walking through there.
tanker
It was-
pumper.
There's a water truck, which is separate from the engines.
Right. But this is,
We're replacing the hose truck.
so the hose truck is going and off to be traded for the mini tanker?
on
Mini
the
pumper?
Mini pumper.
Mini pumper.
And then we're getting a full pumper, I guess you call it,
Okay.
Yeah.
But is that replacing an existing tank truck, or is that replacing
an
some
existing pumper.
pumper? Okay, that makes sense.
And I think that we still end up with the water tank.
Right.
Water tanker.
Right.
So they end up with the same amount of vehicles.
Same number of vehicles and
Yeah.
2 new ones, and we trade 2 out,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
And we're
But
gonna have,
obviously, getting a mini pumper in place of a hose truck is a step up overall.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's when it's going to be used for small fires.
cars and whatever.
In
Yeah.
tough terrain.
Okay, the next thing was...
Jay raised the point that he thought there might not be enough money. Did that come up at all?
No.
For the trade of the mini pumper? Is that what you're saying?
In Jay's comments, he said he thought that there was maybe a problem with the amount of the appropriation that we had made before, not being enough.
Right.
So that was, but it didn't come up in John's conversation with Chris. So.
But if they've ordered it, wouldn't you think that had been resolved? Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, John said they were bought it, but
Yeah, it's not here. On the article for the school gardening equipment.
Mm-hmm.
The school will own that.
Okay.
That won't own how the school will own that. There's another special town meeting, there's an article for the schools. That is interesting. That is a bill, this is, I think, Article 8 at the special town meeting. $11,207.92. This dates back to the school committee search for a superintendent. The bill is dated in March of 2016. Their receipt date on it is in January of 2018, so they never got it before that. But at any rate, no matter when the date of it originally was, it's back further enough that it can no longer be paid out of current school dollars. Now, it's going to take a 90% supermajority vote at the special town meeting.
90%?
90%.
Is there, I don't think I've ever remembered one of those.
No.
I
And,
think I run into one
Okay.
way back.
but, I mean, it's a bill, it's a legitimate bill.
Why did it take so long to get to it?
Well, like, part of it was that their date stamp says that they didn't even receive it until almost 2 years after it
But
was.
the vendor sat on it for 2 years?
Don't know, you know, those kind of details I didn't
Yeah.
bother trying to track down, because the situation is such that it cannot be paid out of any current school funds. So the money has got to be raised for it, and because of the
So there's only,
Time.
there's only an 89% vote, the vendor's in trouble.
well, I'm sure there'll be another approach, one way or another, but but the difficulty is it cannot come out of current school funds.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense.
You know, I wonder why it takes to a special town meeting in June of 19, when they were aware of it in whatever the date was, early 18. There've been a couple of special town meetings since then where it could have
Right.
been brought up.
Right. That predates the current finance guy in the school, who just came in last.
That's
Right.
probably the answer, yeah.
Maybe,
So
no, never mind.
I have no idea, you know. Once we get to the point where it cannot be paid out of school budget, and it's got to be raised, and even if it were brought forward in January 18, it still was
Yeah,
out of
still
school
90%.
budget stuff. So that, you know, the rest of it is really kind of immaterial.
2016.
Yeah.
It was dated March 21st of 2016. It was from when the superintendent search took
What's
place.
the statute of limitations for collecting that?
So obviously, we've got some poor bookkeeping here and the
On that
vendor
part,
has some poor
well,
bookkeeping.
Or there's something that we're not privy
Or
to.
we're not privy to something yet.
Right.
The Smith Voc cost, there are 2 students that those tuitions are for,
Okay,
and they're in 2 different programs. And Pathfinder may be offering a comparable program for one of them, but it's not completely known yet. So it's still a bit up in the air about whether or not, you know, the student will have to be sent to Smith Voc or whether Pathfinder is a legitimate option. But for one of them, apparently it's not.
So they both aren't in the same course.
Right.
I sort of had the assumption that they were.
Yeah, no, it's two different courses. Now, that also leads to a question about the Granby Junior Senior High School roof. And the situation there is that an architect has been selected. And at the Board of Selectmen, they have to now formally vote on that. But the understanding is that the work will take place this summer,
You need an architect to put a roof on?
apparently.
That seems a little weird to me.
Somebody's got to draw up some sort of specs, I suppose.
You know, it's $1.5 million. I don't think you want,
I mean, it's a you know, it's a vinyl, piece of vinyl, right?
Well-
I'm pretty sure when the last time the high school roof was done, we had an architect,
Yeah, okay.
For $1 million,
yeah.
you know,
And
if
it's
it
gotta
goes,
go out
if it
to
goes
bid,
bad,
for
you have a
sure.
malpractice policy.
Okay,
You're gonna have somebody sitting watch over what's going
Yeah.
on. And if an architect designs it, then an architect gets to do that.
Architect's responsible.
There's an article about the multi-family housing. What article is it? Article 10 at the town meeting. Automatic sprinkler systems for multiple dwelling units. This will not apply to condos, but will apply to apartment buildings, will apply to multifamily homes, motels, hotels, and for new construction only.
Multifamily, so if you have two
Multifamily,
family?
yeah, multifamily,
Yeah,
for new
that's-
construction, just new construction.
Okay.
But if it's multifamily home, it'll apply there.
And they're not gonna have any thing which says in the event that when the property sells, that they have to be installed, which is
Unless
our
Mass,
smoke detectors are either written or enforced.
I don't know what it says in the chapter 148, section 261 is amended, but all this says is that we're going to go by that. So, but Chris made the comment, new construction only, so maybe they have thought about that. That can be a question that can be asked at the meeting. Article 11, the appointment of a member of the Board of Selectmen to a committee which is overseen by the Board of Selectmen.
That was the thing Jay sent us an email.
Yeah, it applies to only one person now, but the way to get around it,
why wouldn't it apply to Glenn? Oh, because there's
He's
two
elected.
elected?
elected, and they don't report to the Board of Selectmen.
Right, okay.
The only way to get around it is that they could appoint a select board member to be on the committee as long as the appointment came with a provision that if his or her term ended as a select board member, either by a non-election or by resignation or anything else, then they would have to cease being a member of the committee. And of course, that's not what they want. They want the person to be on the committee because of the committee. So apparently you have to have a law passed. So that will be, that will come up. But that is, currently he's on two separate committees that we both report to the select board. Oh, another item to follow up on. The current waste pickup contract ends at the end of next fiscal year. So 2020 is the third year of it. And they are apparently going to be taking it up fairly soon with the select board. With West Street School, there's a bill which has been, I think, passed. See, not a bill, but it's an appropriation which has been passed by the legislature and by, although it has not been signed by the governor, and it hasn't been released by the governor. Money hasn't been released by the governor. He has the authority whether or not to release it. It's money for a lot of different purposes of towns. But the key for us is that in there is $4 million for Granby for a work on the West Street School.
Mhm.
And if we get that $4 million, then apparently they're going to look at rehabbing at least some of it.
Mhm.
There are some asbestos problems, and there's some septic and water problems that they have to also be thinking about. But they haven't, they've called a moratorium on proceeding forward with demolition of it because there's a chance that we would get enough money to do a rehab of it. So they're waiting to see what's gonna happen.
So last I remember, I thought it was from Jay that they were gonna try to do 2 small buildings instead of rehab.
Well, I think the current recommendation on the table from the committee is to tear it down.
It is.
Tear it down and to put up,
Well, I think the committee is, I don't know if the committee was charged with the responsibility of
Yeah,
what should be done
so
with the park.
construction, just,
Yeah, 50,000 to tear it down.
okay.
So, and my understanding is that there are differences of opinion on the select board as to if it is torn down and replaced with something, what that should be.
I mean, if it were rehabbed, it'd make a nice little town hall.
Yeah,
Any parking?
the,
Would it be enough space to, you
More
know,
space than
town
we're-
offices?
More space than we're currently renting.
And if we
we're
could
talking
sell
about
the Council on Aging building and move them in there,
it. Yeah.
have everybody together.
right.
I mean,
But
that's the
It's
perfect,
all up in the air because until they figure out whether or not they're gonna get this $4 million.
Yeah,
just
well,
know
then
they're gonna
tabling the
wait.
demolition makes sense.
Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see on that. But it hasn't been forgotten.
So there's a-
Proceeding ahead.
any kind of feeling on probability that this might actually happen, or?
No. No. Apparently it's been there for some
Probably
time.
no timeframe attached to it.
Yeah, apparently it's been there for some time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Charlie Baker has lunch at my club all the time. Next time he's there, we should ask him.
the, the moratorium is for the zoning bylaws instead of the general bylaws. You can't use a general bylaw to supersede a zoning bylaw. And then this will be presented apparently by the zoning bylaw. at the meeting.
Excuse me, but,
The zoning bylaw group or the planning board,
oh, they will be.
they will be the ones that will be presenting it. Because it's not a general bylaw issue, it's a zoning bylaw issue. And the only thing that might change apparently is the date might change. It's written to end in September, it may change to January. So, but it'll be, we'll find that out on Monday, what they're gonna do about that. And that was the extent of the conversations. Now, I think what we have to do is, we have to get the budget done. We actually don't have to vote on the rest of the bylaws, except for the budget bylaw. But if we can, I think we should, and wrap this up. But we do have to vote on, we do have to take a vote on the budgets.
Yeah, so,
Now, let me just tell you a couple of the highlights of what's happened with the budgets. The things that have changed are, first of all, for the schools, the thing that we noted last time, that they, the House Ways and Means Committee that included an extra $7,000 of Chapter 7 money, which we assume that if that passes, that the minimum required will go up. And so we included that in, but also it contained the DESI estimates for charter schools. And there's a difference there, both on the income side and the expenditure side. So the net of those two things is now included in the new in-kind expense pages that got sent out. And that's the big item. There are a couple of other.
So that's a net change of,
That's about $70,000 or so. 70?
70,
Yeah.
got it.
It was like an $83 increase in expenditures and $14,000 increase in income coming in two pots. One was a pot of the Chapter 70 money, another was a pot for charter school reimbursement, I think.
Okay.
And based upon the email that we got, apparently the school went ahead and voted their budget last night, and they're going to get the money from another source to make up that difference. They kept the budget the same. There is a slight decrease in the library budget. There was a difference in what was included in the library budget from the figures that are coming from the state compared to what we had as the record, so Chris made that change, and then he double-checked on some other figures that are around that, and it wound up with a small decrease in the library budget. The Hampshire Council of Government budget, the small amount that was in for that, has been eliminated from the current figures that we have. The amount of money for the two items for Smith Vocational has gone up by a small bit, not very much, but a small bit. Is up to $35,930 now. There's been a small change in the amount of, under the state and county assessment figures, and a small change under the local receipts. And that is about it. As far as the departments go, they're basically all the same, again, with this small change in the library figures. All the rest of the figures we had seen on an intermediate basis before that. So, I think we've had a discussion about every item on the budget.
So I'd like to move that we accept this year's budget dated May 6, 2019.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussions? Any points left over about any discussion on?
Only how I'm gonna write it up.
If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you. And that, the budget includes the school budget, which is part of the overall budget piece that we have there.
Yep.
So I think we're all set on the budget pieces.
We still have 3 articles.
We still have some articles to do.
Yep.
And I think one of them is the Article 8 on the special town meeting.
One of them was the fire truck, right?
Yeah, I think the special town meeting, I think we did most everything on there, didn't we, except maybe Article 8?
The only one that really had money was Article 8 anyways.
Yeah.
I didn't take anything down on the special town meeting.
Yeah, there were none of them, oh, I think we discussed and said that none of them really involved,
None involved.
none seemed to involve money.
Budget. We did a lot of work.
Except for the last one, we
Except
didn't
for the
know
last
enough
one,
about
but
that
not-
one, so that needs to be done.
So for the special town meeting, Article 8 is the one to pay off the bill from the schools, the $11,200.
So 26 and 36 and 21?
No, different.
Special town meeting.
I was talking about the regular one.
Yeah.
There's 3 on the
Yeah,
regular.
let's do the special. town
Special,
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah. Article 8.
Yeah, so I move that we support that article.
Okay, do I have a second? Any further discussion, questions? If not, then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you. And now to the articles for the town meeting, the annual town meeting.
21, 26, and 36.
21, 26, and 36. Okay, 21 was the maintenance equipment for the public schools, and find out that those will belong to them.
But we use the town money
There's
instead
no
of
question
school
about
money?
that. So, excuse me?
We use town money instead of school money.
Yeah, we can.
All right, so I move we support that article.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? Nothing, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. There's 21, 26, and which other one?
36.
36.
36, okay. 26 is the new fire truck.
Yeah, well,
Do I have a
Doesn't,
motion to?
doesn't,
we chatted about it.
doesn't say that we're trading one, but is that your understanding?
Yeah, it's the understanding, but it's not, I mean, you can't specify a dollar amount, on a trade.
Mhm. But I mean, if it just said
But this gives them
trading,
an authorization of $700,000 to spend.
So they don't have to spend it all.
But I think
or
that, well.
or it could
I
be a
think probably-
$900,000 truck, then they're getting a $200,000
Yeah,
trade,
maybe,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, technically, I don't know whether or not this has to be treated as two transactions.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. 'Cause it-
No, because there was no question on the mini pumper that we were saving something in.
Same deal, right?
Talked about.
Yeah,
And the police cars,
I don't think we are.
generally, we don't hang on to the old one.
Right.
We stopped that at some point.
Don't we like hand those down to like the dock officer and the? You keep-
Building-
And building services
You
got.
you dump
got one
dump the
there.
oldest vehicle in the fleet down the
I
line?
think they dump it every year.
I thought that the new car came in and, you know, whoever gets like the leftovers or the oldest vehicles, that they replace the
I mean,
oldest.
they pass it down and
Right, you don't necessarily,
eventually get rid of the
you
old
don't
one.
trade the one you're necessarily replacing, you get rid of the oldest vehicle in the fleet. It's not an important point.
Well, probably at that point in time, the vehicle is at the low end of the totem pole is a junk.
Correct.
All right,
I
so
thought they put about 50,000 miles on them a year. Is what I thought.
Right, but I'm talking about which vehicle do you trade? And it's.
Yeah, I
not-
think they were on a
it's
3-year cycle, I think, on all the vehicles.
not- Right, but
on
aren't there,
these vehicles.
aren't there a couple other vehicles other than the standard cruisers that the, that
Yeah, they're unmarked cars and they have a rescue vehicle.
detective
for a couple years ago,
vehicle
yeah.
and whatever?
And there were a couple years when the vehicles, instead of being traded in, they were good enough to be kept, I think, for the building services department. I think
Right.
that's one, and I don't know who else.
Okay.
I move we support this article for $700,000 for the pump truck.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion, questions? Nothing, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? Thank you. 36 is basically,
36 wasn't the one that we did it already, that was the budget.
yeah, that's the budget.
Yeah.
Is that the one you were quandering on how you were gonna write it up, or, yeah?
Yeah, right up there, we supported Article 36.
Pardon?
We supported Article 36.
Well, with the kind of money we're talking about, you'd like to have some documentation.
Limitation, that's true.
But if you have documentation, it's supposed to be part of your notes.
Attached to budget, as per attached to Exhibit A.
Yeah, as per attached, 700 sheets. It would be easier if we could consider all the warrant articles part of the budget too, and then you could just tie it in with the summary.
Yeah, well, the warrant articles may not technically be part of the budget. We look at them when we get all the budget material, but because they're done as separate warrant articles,
Yeah, they're not.
I don't really think, I think that technically they may not be part of the budget. Now, as a warrant article, we have to offer our opinion on them, and we've done all that work as part of the budget.
But we don't have to agree that that's what we should be doing, or,
You know, we don't, once it's printed as a warrant article and signed by the select board, then we don't have the final say
Okay,
in the
that's it.
dollar amounts of
Yeah.
those.
I don't know that I agree with you or disagree with you. Certainly, there's a difference between the warrant articles and the budget, because the budget is ours,
Mhm.
and the warrant articles are not ours.
Yeah.
But to approve the budget, you need to, we're approving a spending plan really for the town. And the spending plan includes everything. We aren't submitting it, but we are approving,
Yeah, well, this year is not a problem, right? Because
So-
we've approved everything.
oh yeah, but in the past, we didn't make the distinction quite that way, so that I was able to tie it all in by saying according to the budget summary, or by the administrator, whatever the wording was that I used.
so we could say we agree with everything except, kind of a thing? If a warrant article, we didn't
No, we
agree.
agree with everything, it's not a question of whether we agree.
This year, we're agreeing.
Well, we could speak against it. We could speak against the warrant article, right? And
We
still,
could, yes.
right,
I don't know if we,
See,
have we,
and
I
when
don't
you
know
get
if we ever
around to
have,
it,
because they're pretty well scrubbed by the time they get to, I mean, technically, we don't approve them before they go to the select board, but they're pretty well scrubbed by the time they get to the select board.
but not by us.
Well, we've had conversations,
Okay.
mostly. I
Initially.
mean, there are things there that we just never have conversations about, like the fees that are paid
Like all
for
the zoning stuff.
services and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Okay.
So,
One that I have a real difference with the enterprise funds. Because they're just a method of accounting that takes it out of calling it a budget and making it into a warrant article, but it's still wages and expenses for everybody.
Yeah, I like those.
Pardon?
I like those.
Why?
It's a well-contained budget.
Mhm.
It gives you the flexibility to spend within a very definite limit. And it takes away a lot of the work of putting the budget together and going through and scrubbing things out. Mainly because it's pretty much the same thing over and over again once it gets started. You set something for a department, and that's what they spend, and you know whether they're spending that much or not when the end of the year is. So it seems to me to be a fairly easy way to handle it.
Well, I think what my concern is that if the finance committee's job is to submit a budget, anything that's done that pulls something away from the finance committee and submits it by someone else is sort of weakening the authority of the finance committee.
Yeah, but a few years ago, now it's quite a few years ago now, we initiated the finance committee at that time initiated some of that conversation because a lot of these, not all, but a lot of the capital items used to be included within the budgets of the departments. The stuff for the police department was always included in the police budget. Stuff for the highway department, there'd be, there'd be trucks sometimes, one of that. And it distorts your view of the department if you're trying to figure out what their expenses are for the year, because then you always have to think, okay, well, we want to know what operating expenses are, so we have to take out capital items. But do you really take out all capital items? No, you only take out big capital items. There's small capital items from time to time in everybody's budget, and that's within the normal flow. But if you plunk down a $100,000 dump truck all of a sudden into a budget, it can distort it.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want is for a $100,000 dump truck to be considered to be part of the budget every year. So it was, and those things can be discussed from time to time and discussed and taken back. But the finance committee years ago thought it was more reasonable to do a lot of these things this way. Now, it was never discussed as to whether doing that meant that the warrant articles were not part of the budget. That, I think, is a technical issue, which I don't know where technically that would stand as to whether or not that's part of the budget. It's always discussed by everybody as part of the budget, but it technically may not be because it's done as a separate mechanism. So
So
we
we-
could, if you wanted to explore that, we could explore that. If there's gonna be any bylaw changes, maybe the bylaw would be that.
I don't think we need
Well,
to.
the way it's going, there won't be any budget left.
Yeah.
But I thought the way warrant articles were written and the rationale behind how you get a warrant article done kind of inherently kept it away from the budget process. But I'm not certain,
Well,
because I can imagine,
as I say, I like to consider budget to be the financial plan for next year for the town.
yeah,
And the fact that you vote a fire truck, not in something called fire department, but called in a warrant article, to me, it's all still part of
Yeah, it's money.
whether you have enough money to run the town next
Yeah,
year.
Right.
that's all true.
there are other things though that are kind of like that. For example, there's the assumption that the select board speaks for all the elected officials, but that's not true. The select board has a well-defined set of responsibilities, and they have a well-defined set of departments that report to them. The rest of them have nothing to do with it. You know, they have, you know, the other elected officials, theoretically, have their own say and can stand up before town meeting and ask for anything they want. I don't think that a department head who reports to the select board really has the authority to do that as the department head. He might be able to do it as a citizen, although to be able to spend the time to go through and present a whole budget might be beyond what the
Limited.
moderator would allow. But if an elected official wanted to get up and say that, I think this should be done, the select board has no authority to overrule that.
So then it gets hazy because there's something in the town bylaws that say that the town administrator will present to the finance committee a balanced budget.
Right. So all
So
those things,
to balance it, you gotta have everything in there.
right.
So then, maybe on that basis, the definition of budget is everything.
Right, but at town meeting, people still have the opportunity to throw all that out.
Oh, yeah.
And there's probably more weight that would be given to an elected official making a request for a budget than there would be to an individual. And that even happened on a salary basis one time, to straighten some things out on the salary.
So what should we say in our letter this year?
Yeah, if we're ready to wrap up the discussion on the budget, I think we can switch and talk about what our write-up is gonna be, if that's okay with everybody.
Yep.
We can get out of here early. I want to thank everybody for all the time we spent this year on the budget. This has been, I think, sort of an extraordinary number of meetings straightening out different pieces of the budget, at least compared to what we have. So I personally want to thank everybody for putting the time in on it.
But, I mean, I think that it seems like there's some important headway with,
There is.
I agree.
It's
With the school
definitely
committee
important.
and-
I think given that headway, we should make this year's letter short and sweet. The balanced budget,
or instead of bopping them on the head, give them an attaboy.
yeah, well, I don't necessarily think this is giving that way, just say,
Something shy of an
dear
attaboy.
town, review the budget, and then here it is, and it's a balanced budget, and we support it, and then John mentioned, we should probably say something about the water situation as a future contingency that we need to be concerned about, but that's about it.
If anybody brought a copy of the
I have it.
thing last year, we've got a lot of the boilerplate stuff, which I think is important for the town to know every year. You know, things are moving along as expected, that there's some things which basically stay along. So the first couple of items on the overview and the budget, well, basically, I think, an updating of those things with current figures is fine. And it gives people, particularly this year, a sense that things are being maintained in the way that we would expect them to. That
I think we do is, we do the same overview, except change the figures as appropriate. You know, give people, you know, outline of stuff.
They have some benchmarks that
Yeah,
you're stating
have the
every
usual
year.
benchmarks, school
Right.
budget, you know, that type of stuff, as we always do. And then for consideration for the future, you say, this year, the budget process, was a more coordinated and cooperative effort than in years past among, various committees. We are happy to report that, Granby is on sound financial footing for another year. But as always, there are some cautionary considerations for the future. In particular, we are facing a potential issue of unpotable water throughout the town, for which we can expect significant capital outlay in the future. This, however, is a subject of a study by members of the Board of Selectmen, and we expect that we will need to address that in the future. But otherwise, we're on a sound financial footing for this year, very respectfully submitted. Something like that.
So for almost $500,000 increase in the budget? Second paragraph of your statement.
From last year?
Last year.
This is not draft of this year, this is one that actually appeared last year.
Oh, sorry.
I've got three things I think you ought to stick in.
Okay.
One is to put in that we're using the House Ways and Means budget, which gives us a more up-to-date feel.
That's a good idea.
Plus, it kind of locks you in for future, well, not about, it encourages us to be consistent with that.
Be consistent in that methodology, yeah.
Right.
So that would go in the overview.
Yeah, I'll note that no budgets at the state level have been finalized yet, but we're using the most recent stuff.
What is it?
Mention something about the capital, because we got at $1.1 million or two, whatever it is this year, it's substantially more than it was a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
To point out that over time it averages out, so
Yeah.
don't get lulled to sleep
Yeah,
by a lean year, or a good year, I guess.
well, that might be we're doing good, but cautionary for the
Yeah.
future.
And then the other thing is something on about the school budget, I was
Yeah,
in line.
yeah. Well, the language I was thinking
Maybe a
about,
little bit is. I don't know,
maybe
wanna
we
get
say,
into how they
maybe
got
we
there, but
say,
say that
it's
they-
been a much more cooperative spirit this year among the committees, especially between the Finance Committee and the School Committee.
You know, on the other hand, we could note that last year, the capital needs were in the $35 million range, because we built the school.
Yeah.
And this year, it's dropped down to $3 million.
Right, you could say that, yeah.
Whoa,
But that wasn't part of the budget a year ago.
some wit from the finance committee, what?
Okay, anything else?
No,
No, that's it. Short and sweet.
Okay. Do we want to meet tomorrow night or not?
I know. I got a bunch going on.
Okay. Then we have,
Not good for me.
the next Tuesday, well, next Monday is the special town meeting. We have the first of the half of the annual town meeting and special town meeting. Will you be able to make it?
So it's the same 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock Monday.
What's the date? Oh, May 13th?
May 13th.
Yeah, yeah, I'm there.
Okay.
I might walk in 2 minutes before the
That's-
meeting.
Yeah, that's okay. We've got the 14th and the 15th. But we really have to meet and wrap this up then because I think everything is gonna have to be in by the end of that week, or by Monday or Tuesday the following week, because I'm gonna go to print. So,
14th is good. I guess I'm in Boston, but I should be done earlier. 15th, I also guess I'm in Boston, but I should be done earlier, but I might walk in on the 15th, I might walk in a little late, but it'll be pretty close.
all right, well, let me schedule meetings. Let me schedule meetings for the 14th and the 15th.
Right.
And with a little luck, I'll get a draft around. We'll get a draft around before then, and we might be able to wrap this up, with some final edits on the 14th. If not, 14th and 15th will certainly do it.
Okay.
Does that sound?
Yeah, what I was gonna say was, if you could ship a draft around,
Yeah, no, I'll get
and
a
if nothing else, you could always, usually you call a meeting for us when the town meeting goes on,
Yeah,
so we could
yeah.
have a little bit of a discussion
Yeah, we could do that.
before or afterwards.
We could have a meeting,
And then-
could we call a meeting right after the town meeting? And do that?
Well,
We have to give a notice?
I think that,
Or-
I think
or
I think that we're allowed to have
Or
meetings
could we,
without even scheduling them
could
for
we
the town meeting.
postpone this meeting and not adjourn this meeting and then?
No, we can
continue?
talk, we can talk that night. We can
Okay.
talk tonight. What I'm concerned about is I've heard some rumblings that, between the part of the town meeting that is on Monday and the special town meeting, that this could be a long evening.
Oh, okay.
Monday could be a long evening. But we will have, we will have the ability to spend whatever time we want to discuss things.
Right.
And so we can,
Well, we have the 14th and 15th.
and then those two elements should be able to do it, I think.
Okay.
And then, I imagine I'll get stuff from Chris that goes to the book, and if you would volunteer to do some proofreading with me.
We didn't have much to do last year, though.
Well, it's the figures from the previous years that's gotta be checked. Because there have been mistakes from time to time showing up in those things, but it's not a lot, but it is.
No, I'm trying to think, last year, I don't even remember doing it last year. And I don't know that you were so magnanimous to do this to do it all.
I mean, if it's in Excel and you're just looking at totals, how could it
No,
change?
Yeah, you looked at.
It's things like the Board of Selectmen take the accountant in there
Well, yeah,
and some other things, so it's more than just looking at the sheets and seeing if they're the same.
You can't take the budget sheets that we've been given and translate them directly into what appears into the report, because there's ways that things are combined. And
Okay.
I've got that template someplace, so I go through and check that. But on the actual figures that are printed, I think that's really, you gotta read those number by number.
For some,
I think you did some of that last year.
I did the year before, but I thought last year somehow or other came out that it was more accurate and didn't need it or something, I can't remember.
Well, at any rate, we'll spend the that be done. All right, do we have anything else before the committee tonight?
Move we adjourn.
If not, then take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.